When it comes to the world of FPV racing, a little bit of latency can make a big deal. So today we're going to try and fix that with this bad boy, the V3 Nano from Walksnail. We're going to put it on the bench, break it down, have some fun, and show you exactly why it might be a big deal to some. G'day, you absolute legends. Stu here from UAVfutures, and today, well, we're going to be talking about this. This is the new V3 Nano from Walksnail. We're going to be putting it on the bench, taking a look at the text and the specs, going out, flying around, having some fun stuff. But the big one about this, traditionally in the past, if you care about racing, you care about getting the most consistent lap times and feeling you can of your drone when it's in the air, traditionally a lot of pilots would have gone for an analog system. So something like some old Sky Zones or Fat Sharks or something like that. And that was sort of considered one of the shortcomings of these new digital systems, whether using DJI, whether using Walksnail. And I know HD0 does things a little bit differently, but today we're looking at this, and the V3 Nano actually can be put into race mode. So it can do its normal sort of standard higher resolution flying, or you can also put it into race mode, which doesn't actually lock the latency, but it gets it much down to a very consistent level of 22, 23 milliseconds when you're cruising around. Now that might not be a big deal for some. Some people just want a juicy, gorgeous picture cruising around having some fun. But if you are a racer, this is definitely something that you should keep an eye on, and it's pretty exciting, I think, to see, because I've got to be honest, I much prefer digital footage or digital flying than I do with analog. So what we should do, let's put it on the bench, look at the text and the specs, and then I've put it in this little drone. We'll take it out to the field. We're going to meet up with our Raven, see what he thinks, and show you some footage. You can see some variable latency footage, and you will also see in its racing mode as well, and see what Raven thinks and all that sort of stuff. Now, before we do that, I am going to put some pictures on the screen of the text and the specs. Why? Because I filmed this, but this camera right here that I am looking at, I lost that footage. So I still had all this side footage and all the top footage working out well, but I did not have the front footage, so I sort of had to redo that. However, here's the specs, here's how much it weighs. Thank you very much, editing. Here's all the, all the things. You check the link down below if you're really into it. It costs about $100 or $109, which I think is an okay price considering what you get for this little package. I've put it in this tiny little drone right here. I think it can take up to 12 volts directly when you're going to be powering it, cruising it around. I'm going to be flying mine on a 2S and a 3S. And if you want to play along at home and you're interested in doing this, make sure you also update your goggles. So you do need to update the firmware to test out the racing mode and have some fun with it. So look, that's it on the bench. It's a digital system. It's a tiny little form factor, so you really can cram it into some drones that you might not have been able to in the past. When you're racing, every gram matters. People try to build them as light as possible, and we're also going to check out some of that low latency testing as well, or flight footage. So let's do that. Let's go out to the field, fly around, have some fun, and see what we think about the new Walksnail Nano V3.
Radio out here in the field. I did forget my goggle battery. Thank you very much. Old man Raven in the background for the spare. It's a little bit too short. We've got Whoop Heaven over there. We're going to be ripping around, testing out the new camera system from Walksnail, showing you the footage, seeing what Raven thinks. We were going to fly over there, but there's a wedding going on. So, we don't want to disrupt some people's happy days. But let's do it, show you some footage, and see, you guys can decide for yourself how good you think this camera looks. All right.
Okie dokie, so here we go. We've got two flights to show you. So this is standard mode, and in just a moment you see another flight when we are trying out the latency locked mode, so racing mode. On 25 milliwatts when we get to that one. But I got to say, look, I didn't actually notice that much difference, but your mileage may vary, because I am not a hardcore racer. I'm quite happy flying around cruising, and this little bit of latency difference is more than enough for me that it doesn't bother me whatsoever. The camera itself, it can record on board as well as to the DVR. Getting a bit risky flying over some water there. The colors look okay, definitely far better than analog in my opinion, and I really like it. I like how much it weighs. It was easy to fit into the build. It's sort of the next step, or the next evolution as far as I'm concerned, in getting everybody on board to some digital, because it really is so much more fun cruising around when you've got digital. Now we're going to jump over and you'll see the difference. So take note of what it looks like here versus this is when we are jumping over straight to racing mode. So both of these pictures have been scaled up to fit the screen. However, I don't think that should disrupt it too much. You should be able to notice that this looks a little bit worse, although it does have that locked latency, but it still looks 1,000 times better than analog. So a big thumbs up for me, especially if you want to take this to the races.
All right, it is a Raven's turn. This should be interesting because you have been flying around with Walksnail, but your goggles over there.
The VRX.
Yeah, the VRX to convert your analog to it. I guess, what did that look like in the end? It felt pretty fun.
It looked really fast, and like I was saying, the prop, I've never seen a tighter prop clearance.
Oh yeah, you were impressed with that.
Look at that.
Like a couple of...
That's a bee's dick,
yeah,
I think
well,
is what they call it.
Anyway, that's pretty big in my book. Anyway, let's so we're going to fly around, but you can talk about the drone a little bit, but I really want to hear your thoughts on the new Walksnail air unit, all right? So we'll fly that around and then...
The new V3
a couple of things. So I've told you a little bit about it, but we get your impressions and see what you think versus your upgrades of some of the ones that you've got.
Yeah, cool.
All right, righty. So we did have some technical issues.
Safety first,
Yes.
safety.
Okay,
And that's
okay.
the benefit of the Walksnail system, is that for safety, you can spot people, and I'm just doing left circles here.
Yeah,
All right.
that's fine, because I want you to focus on the video anyway. Do you notice a difference in clarity between this and what you're currently using?
I see, again, that's hard.
It's hard too because you're also wearing new goggles.
But no, like, it doesn't have the muddy feeling that sometimes you get. I'm not pushing the range, but sometimes you get the muddiness, I think, with the smaller Walksnail system, because it's 350 on the older smaller one, and this is 500 milliwatts, I think.
It can go up to legally 500 if that's what you want to in some place. Anyway, yep.
So if that's what you want, I mean, it's not going to go long range, 500 milliwatts, but if you want nice,
you reckon you could do that long range, 500?
not like super long range, but in terms of things like penetration. So if you want to be able to fly around at the park.
Yep. Are you getting any dropouts or anything like that on the video?
No, it feels good. Again, this battery's cooked, I think.
Okay.
No, it feels solid. Like, yeah. Nice and smooth, and I'm not noticing any crazy latency spikes. Like, we haven't got the information up, so I have no idea what we're actually
Do you
doing,
feel any latency?
No, but I have just been cruising. So I think latency comes out when you're pushing tricks and that kind of thing. So especially things like rolls and flips, you're used to them going a certain distance, but you know,
It's probably pretty hard to tell with my drone, my goggles,
dodgy
and a new
battery.
radio,
This battery's
and
a bit dodgy, and you know, no, I mean,
So easy.
yeah,
Alright,
she's alright.
We'll bring it in and we'll talk about it then when you can talk a bit more. All right, let's bring it in. My dodgy batteries aside, so we're mainly focusing this right here. What do you think?
No, like,
And the shape and the size,
I'm
I
just
guess,
feeling
and the
it.
form factor for what you get. Yep.
I'm just feeling it after I've just flown to see how hot it is, because that's a big thing with digital
Yes.
on micros, is that they get super hot. And I think like the new case design that they've got in the V2, V3s is sort of helping with that. It's still a little bit warm, but I also like their design for the way the UFL comes out, but that's nothing new. I think they've used that across the board. But no, like the actual flight characteristics felt good. It felt like it wasn't running out of range.
Would you be happy to use this over, let's say, would you be happy to use this if you had an option? You got, let's say you got HD0, you got DJI, or you wanted to build with something, or analog, would you be fine picking this style, or you'd pick something else?
Yeah, I think if you were, because they've got the new race mode now with the V3 system, I think this is kind of perfect for it. So if you were building a race quad or race micro.
And not only does it fit in with people's channels, but the latency of it you can set to in the race mode or something.
Yes,
as well.
the whole thinking I think with the V3 is in the whole race mode, so the new things in the firmware for Walksnail is that you can have the fixed latency of, let's say, 22 milliseconds.
Yep.
So variable latency in digital's always been the real sort of thing holding a lot of race pilots back, especially.
Yes.
The reason race pilots are switching to HD0 is because it's got fixed low latency. But if you love digital and you don't think HD0 is quite up to par picture-wise, if you can get fixed 22 milliseconds, you can race this.
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I guess it's not like, oh, that tree is, well, when you're going at 100 k's an hour, those latency seconds, that can be the difference between a couple of meters in your flying.
Well, those latency spikes.
You know what to feel.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to end up in a gate versus, and the thing with latency is imperceptible for us to feel, but you'll feel it when you go to do a trick or a fast maneuver through a gate. So if they can have a solid system that's not too heavy, it's only 500 milliwatts, you don't need it for long range, then this is perfect for I guess an all-round for micros, but maybe even for races as well.
All right, and something I would need to test more, but I might not be the person to do it, is how many of these can you get in the air at once, and how much bleed is there between channels? Because that's also really important for multi-pilot flying.
So if you're going to have 5 or 6 Walksnail pilots on a race
and
day.
2 analogs or something like that, that'd be a real interesting system. So anyway, all right. So you fan, not fan? Final.
No, I like
thoughts?
it. That's good. Walksnail are smashing it. It's not like, the DJI is all we had for a while, so at least we've got
I kind of almost
digital.
prefer this picture to some of my DJIs. I definitely prefer the goggles.
Yeah,
but
and my whole point is they're at least there for the community, so they're actually working with the community for the OSD and that kind of stuff. That's huge. We're never going to get that from DJI.
Yeah.
So if you're going to support anyone, Cadix, I mean,
they're part of it. They're part of the pedigree of people who came from FPV.
Yeah, and Cadix started out as the cheap, crappy cameras that they had issues for a little while, and now it's amazing. You got to give it to them. They're the top of the market. So Foxeer, Runcam, you've got some work to do because Cadix, you're killing it.
You even fly Walksnail anyway.
I
normally.
fly Walksnail now.
Yeah. Easy.
Cadix, yep.
Awesome. Nice. All right. So anyway, let's wrap this review up and see you back in the studio.
Radio, so there it is. There's my review of the Walksnail Nano V3, and a couple of things that I want to point out. Number one, I strongly recommend this. Like, I had a great time flying this thing around. I think it is a great option for those people who have digital. They've traditionally had some Walksnail goggles, and you want to get into the world of racing. Not only is putting it into racing mode going to help you, I guess, get the most out of your quad in terms of consistent handling and feeling, it's also going to marry up very well with the race band channels and the lap timings and all that sort of stuff. So if you're into racing, you've got some digital goggles already that aren't HD0. It's definitely a great, fantastic option. I would probably be choosing this if I went to the races. This is what I would take if I was going in a race that needed 25 milliwatts, needed to fit on their band channels, and I wanted the lowest latency possible while still on a digital system. This is probably the one that I would be taking. There is arguments to be made to HD0 and that sort of stuff. We can talk about them. I do have a HD0 video in the works or in the pipeline. But yeah, overall, I think it's well priced for what it does. I really liked the picture. I didn't notice too much of a drop when it came to the 540p versus the standard picture. And yeah, overall, I think it's thumbs up. It's exactly what our hobby needs. And I really think that Walksnail, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, I am beginning to like these more than my DJI goggles. So I think I've only got the V2s of the DJI. I don't have the latest V3s, but these, for the form factor and everything that they do, yeah, I'm more than happy cruising this thing around. So I'm going to give this a big double thumbs up. Look, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more FPV related content. I'm wearing another Rising Sun FPV t-shirt. That link should be down below as well. And as always, one thing I want to say actually before I sign out is, and this one's probably extra important, be kind to each other, but most of all, be kind to yourself. Why? Because you deserve it. You are awesome, and as always, happy flying.